Okay, let's unpack this.
Hmm.
Imagine you're a buyer needing to source something specific, and you want, the best possible price in a competitive market.
Right.
Forget everything you think you know about normal auctions where prices go up, or even standard reverse auctions. Today, on the deep dive, we're plunging into something else entirely. The Japanese auction.
Mm-hmm.
We got a bunch of source material here, basically a full guide on understanding and running these things.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive.
And our mission, cut through it all, pull out the core stuff,
Yeah.
and show you what a Japanese auction is, how its kind of counterintuitive structure works,
Yeah.
why companies are using it for surprising results, and what makes it so, well, powerful and transparent.
Sounds good.
You'll walk away with a really clear grasp of this different approach.
And it's a fascinating bit of procurement, actually, because, I mean, the goal is often the same, right? Efficient sourcing, transparency, competitive prices. But the method here, it creates a completely different vibe, a different dynamic. It makes suppliers engage in a really unique way, and it reveals market truths other formats might just miss.
Absolutely. It feels almost backwards at first. So let's start right there. What is a Japanese auction, like, at its core? What's the basic idea?
Okay, the basic idea is dynamic pricing, but with a twist. The price actually starts high and then it decreases at set intervals.
Starts high.
The buyer sets a starting price, higher than they probably expect to pay, and then the price just ticks down step by step.
Okay, so it starts high, drops. That's obviously different from a regular auction, but how's it different from a reverse auction? Prices go down there too.
That's the key thing. In a typical reverse auction, suppliers are actively putting in lower bids, reacting to competitors, trying to undercut each other.
Right, you see the bids.
Exactly. In the Japanese format, suppliers don't place new, lower bids like that. Instead, at each price drop, they just have to decide, can I do this price? Yes. Stay in. No. I'm out. And this is crucial. Once you're out, you are permanently out.
Whoa. Permanently. So you can't, wait and see, watch a competitor, then shave a bit off your price?
Nope. None of that visible tit-for-tat undercutting, that whole layer of reactive strategy. It's gone. Suppliers just see the current price from the buyer and have to make a quick internal call. Is this profitable for me? Yes or no? Based purely on their own costs.
Wow, that's intense. I like the analogy the source used musical chairs in reverse.
It really nails it, doesn't it? The music's playing, that's the timer the price is dropping, and when it stops at the new lower level, you gotta have a seat, meaning you have to accept that price.
If you can't, you're out. Chair's gone.
Exactly, gone for good. Suppliers see the price, see the timer counting down. If they can meet it, they signal, I'm still in before time's up. If they can't, or just choose not to, they exit. Last one standing wins. Simple as that. Simple mechanic, huge implications though. Let's zoom in on what gives it that power. What are the key characteristics, the defining features?
Well, it's how they all work together, First, like we said, the descending price model.
Yeah.
Starts high, drops in fixed, predictable steps. The source had that example, right? $10,000 start, dropping $500 every 2 minutes. Predictability is key.
And that structure forces that binary decision making. It's not, what's my next bid? It's just yes or no, right now.
Exactly. Accept and stay, decline, and leave forever.
It simplifies the immediate decision, but man, it puts huge pressure on the pre-auction homework.
Which connects right into the no-bid visibility. That seems like a massive difference compared to seeing other bids flying around.
Oh, it's a total game changer. Suppliers have no idea how many others are still in. Zero. Let alone what their floor price might be. So that drastically cuts the risk of collusion, or suppliers just playing games based on what competitor X is doing. You're forced to look inward. What are my costs? What's my absolute floor?
So the pressure isn't seeing someone else go lower. It's watching the price drop closer and closer to your bottom line. And that brings us back to that one-way exit.
Yep. Once you're out, you're out. You can't dip your toe in, leave, rethink, and jump back. This is probably the biggest thing, forcing suppliers to do really thorough cost analysis before the auction starts.
Because if you jump too early,
you miss out completely. Stay in too long, you might lock yourself into an unprofitable price. Very high stakes.
They do get a bit of breathing room, though, with the timed intervals, right?
The price doesn't just plummet, it drops at fixed published times. So suppliers get that consistent window between levels to figure out their position and make that accept-exit call before the next drop happens.
And equal treatment. That sounds straightforward.
Yeah, it just means it's fair. Everyone sees the exact same price at the exact same moment. Same rules for everybody. Builds trust, no hidden deals.
Okay. And finally, the buyer gets that real-time feedback. What does that look like?
Oh, this is gold for the buyer. It's like watching market intelligence unfold live. You see who drops out and at what price point.
Ah,
It gives you insights into market depth, maybe even hints about different suppliers' cost structures or how aggressive they are. Super useful info for future strategy, even beyond just this one auction.
so it's a really carefully designed environment. How does a company actually run one? Can you walk us through that structured process from the source?
Sure, it really kicks off with significant pre-auction preparation by the buyer. This is huge. You got to define exactly what you're buying, find and qualify the right suppliers,
Right.
and nail down the auction settings. That starting price, remember, intentionally high, maybe 15–20% above market, to get everyone in the door initially the size of each price drop, the time between drops. And clear specs, clear terms, absolutely critical.
Yeah, the specs are fuzzy. How can anyone calculate their floor price?
Exactly. Garbage in, garbage out. After prep, you move to auction setup. This is basically programming the platform with all those details: start price, number of steps or the price range, the exact drop amount or percentage.
And then that crucial bit, supplier invitation and training, especially the training part.
Oh, massively important. You invite your qualified suppliers, give them the rules, the guidance, but the training is where you make sure they get the unique mechanics, that ascending price, the binary choice, and especially that irreversible exit.
You really have to hammer that home.
You do. The source mentions things like questionnaires, focus groups, maybe even short conferences to walk them through it, answer questions before it's go time. You need them comfortable and prepped.
Right. You don't want them dropping out just because they misunderstood how it works.
Precisely. Then, auction start. Scheduled time hits, all invited, trained suppliers are live, seeing that initial high price.
And the price decrements kick in automatically.
Yep, right on schedule. Like that example. $100 start, 5 taki drops every 3 minutes. And here's a key detail. To stay in, suppliers have to actively confirm they accept the current price within that time window.
Ah, okay. So it's not passive. You have to click, yes, I'm still in.
Yeah, based on the source, it's an active signal during the interval. If they don't confirm, or if they actively hit decline, they're automatically out when the timer for that round hits 0.
Got it. Enforces those supplier decisions. Accept or leave for good.
Exactly.
How does it actually finish? When does it end?
Few ways. Most common. One supplier left standing, they win.
Simple enough.
Or it could end if all the remaining suppliers drop out at the exact same price level. That usually tells you you've hit the real market floor for everyone still viable.
Interesting.
Or the buyer might have set a secret reserve price beforehand. If the auction hits that price, it stops. And buyers can often tweak settings, maybe extend it if needed, say if multiple suppliers are still locked in at a price they like.
And after the winner emerges, or it ends some other way.
Then it's award and contracting. Buyer looks at the results, mostly the winning price, sure, but also considers those other pre-agreed things like quality, reliability, past performance, whatever was decided up front, before making the final award and moving to the contract stage.
It sounds incredibly efficient at driving down to that lowest viable price.
Yeah.
What are the big wins? Why go through this specific process?
Well, the sources list some really strong benefits. A key one is fantastic price discovery. Because suppliers have to decide based on their own costs without seeing competitors, it's brilliant at revealing the actual lowest price the market can sustain. Cuts through a lot of guesswork.
And that reduced bid collusion point you made earlier, that must be a huge draw in certain industries.
Oh, absolutely. The lack of competitor visibility just guts the ability for suppliers to coordinate or keep prices artificially high. The source mentioned an industrial equipment deal where this format achieved 12% greater savings compared to their old methods.
Wow, 12% just by changing the auction type. That's significant.
It really is, directly linked to the structure stopping that collusion.
It also seems like it would lead to simplified supplier decisions, at least in the moment.
Yeah, for the supplier during the auction, it's very straightforward. Can I do this price, yes or no? Much less mentally taxing than constantly calculating your next move while watching 5 competitors in a standard reverse auction.
And that simplicity, that structure, probably means faster completion times.
Definitely. Those quick yes-no decisions at each step mean the auction itself usually wraps up much faster than formats needing complex bid calculations and submissions. Speeds up the whole sourcing cycle.
Faster usually means lower transaction costs, too.
Precisely. Automated price drops, simple supplier responses. It just takes less manual effort for both the buyer and the supplier compared to long negotiations or multiple bidding rounds.
I also like that it encourages better supplier preparation. Seems like a side benefit.
It's a big one, though. Knowing they face those irreversible choices forces suppliers to show up fully prepared. They have to understand their costs and minimum margins inside out before it starts. No winging it.
And it creates a transparent and fair process.
Yep. Same rules, same price, same time for everyone. That level playing field is clear to everybody, which helps build trust, across the whole supply chain relationship.
The source also mentioned competitive rate increase. How does that work?
Yeah, basically helps buyers lock in more competitive rates, partly because it lowers the strategic barrier for suppliers. The how-to bid is simple, right? So they can focus just on the price versus their costs. Interestingly, the source even says it can work well for goods with significant supplier differentiation.
Really? That seems counterintuitive.
A little, yeah, but the idea is the structure forces everyone to focus on that comparable price point, even if the underlying offerings have differences that would be evaluated later.
Interesting. And improves supplier relationships. Does the pressure not damage them?
The source suggests the opposite, actually. The clarity, clear specs upfront, transparent auction sets clear expectations for everyone. That foundation of trust and fairness can actually strengthen relationships in the long run.
Okay. Lastly, better rate negotiation.
Right. By running this, you've effectively stress-tested the market. You know the price point where suppliers were still willing to play. That establishes a clear market-tested ceiling, which gives the buyer a stronger hand in any final contract talks beyond just the raw auction result.
It's a pretty compelling list of upsides. But clearly, you can't just jump into this. Implementation is everything. What are the key steps to get it right?
Yeah, planning is non-negotiable. First, define clear objectives. What exactly are you trying to achieve here? Max savings, speed, better market intel, getting more competition. Your goal shapes everything, and you need to look at your current spend situation first.
Then, select appropriate categories. You wouldn't use this for everything.
Definitely not. It shines when you have several qualified suppliers, and the specs for the product or service are really standardized, really comparable. Think indirect stuff like office supplies, IT hardware, basic services. Also good when there's not much differentiation, or you just need a quick way to narrow down the field.
And prepare detailed specifications. We keep coming back to this, but it sounds vital.
Absolutely crucial. Requirements have to be crystal clear, unambiguous. Suppliers need to know exactly what they're pricing. That transportation example from the source was good. Define the routes, the volumes, the frequency, the service levels. Any gray area makes it impossible to commit to a dropping price.
Makes sense. And the supplier work up front. Qualify and educate.
Yep. Screen them first, not just on price potential, but can they actually deliver? Quality, reliability, capacity. Then, once they're qualified, the education piece. You have to thoroughly train them on this format, hammering home that irreversible exit rule. Use those questionnaires, focus groups, whatever works to make sure they're ready.
With suppliers prepped, you determine optimal parameters.
Yeah.
Setting the dials.
Exactly. This is deciding the auction mechanics. That high starting price, source said maybe 15–20% above expectations. The decrement size, perhaps 1–5% per drop. And the time intervals between drops, often 2 to 5 minutes. You tune these based on the specific market you're dealing with.
A test run seems like a really good idea before the main event.
Essential, I'd say. Run a simulation, maybe internally or with a couple of pilot suppliers. Catches glitches, clarifies misunderstandings before it counts. The source even suggests starting with a small pilot project first.
Okay, then execute the live auction.
Yep. Run the event. Have tech support ready. Keep an eye on how it's tracking against your goals.
Afterwards, analyze results and award.
Review the outcome. Price is key, but weigh it against all those other predefined award criteria before you pick your supplier.
And finally, loop back with review and refine.
Yeah, get feedback from your team, from the suppliers who participated. What worked, what didn't. Use those lessons to tune your process for the next time you run a Japanese auction.
This whole thing sounds incredibly precise. All the time drops, the real-time decisions. Trying to manage this manually seems like it would be impossible.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. Keeping track of the exact timing, who's in, who's out, based on those rapid-fire decisions across potentially many suppliers. You really need specialized software. It handles the complex event management, automating the price drops, the exits, all according to the rules you set.
And obviously, enhanced data security for all that pricing info.
Absolutely critical. These platforms need robust security.
The real-time analytics must be incredibly useful for the buyer during the auction.
Oh, yeah. Gives you that live dashboard view. You see exactly who's still in at each price level. You can spot potential price floors emerging in real time. It's critical market intel happening right in front of you.
And good software probably supports multiple event formats too. Companies don't only run Japanese auctions.
Exactly. Most procurement platforms are toolkits. They'll support Japanese auctions, but also standard reverse auctions, sealed bids, RFPs, RFQs, lets the buyer pick the right tool for the job each time.
Integration with existing systems like ERP must save a ton of hassle.
Huge efficiency gain. Connects the sourcing event to your back-end systems for contracts, payments, etc. Reduces manual entry, keeps data consistent.
And just handling all the suppliers.
Supplier management becomes much easier, especially if you have a complex category or tons of potential suppliers. The software manages the invites, the communication, tracks who's participating, who's dropped out. The source had that example, right? A global retailer sourcing packaging.
Yeah.
Using software to handle 27 suppliers across different regions in one event. You just can't do that manually.
Wow, okay, that really highlights the need. And you get built-in audit trails and compliance.
Yep. Every click, every price change, every exit is logged automatically. Creates a complete tamper-proof record. Great for compliance, great for looking back later.
Plus flexibility and setup customization.
You can really dial in the parameters, the drops, the timing, the specific rules within the software to fit each unique sourcing situation.
And it enables remote participation, opening things up.
Right. Taking it online means suppliers can join from anywhere. Bigger pool, potentially more competition.
Which leads to better data-driven decision-making overall.
Definitely. The analytics you get back on supplier behavior, where the price thresholds are, that informs not just this one award, but your whole procurement strategy going forward.
And seeing it live gives you that real-time monitoring capability.
Yeah, you can easily watch how one or even multiple auctions are progressing from a central point, stepping in only if absolutely necessary.
Now, the source mentions Prokuria as an example platform. How does a specific tool like that actually put these ideas into practice?
Right. Prokuria is presented as an example of software design for this. They apparently offer, intuitive setup tools, the real-time monitoring dashboards, those detailed analytics we talked about. Their Japanese auction feature is built with those adjustable decrement settings, flexible timing, supplier management tools, all the stuff you'd need.
They had that interesting option about competitor visibility, didn't they?
Yeah, that was a neat detail the source pointed out. Prokuria lets you tweak the competition exposure. You can choose to just show suppliers that other offers exist at the current price without saying how many. The source suggests this might create more psychological pressure. Or you can choose to reveal that there are X additional offers at that same price. Give suppliers slightly more info, but they still don't know who it is.
That psychological angle is fascinating. How much info do you give them? What other Prokuria features did the source call out?
Let's see. It mentions support for multi-factor auctions, meaning different types of events, not security MFA, a supplier engagement monitor to see who's actively participating live, full audit logs, and a secure private web page for suppliers so they can join without needing to create a whole account first. Makes it easier for them.
And support and integration are part of the package.
Yeah, the source says they offer expert support and have capabilities to integrate with existing procurement systems.
And for anyone listening who's curious, the source even mentioned how to check Prokuria out.
It did, yeah. Suggested contacting them or looking into a demo account, specifically noting no credit card needed, just to see how their Japanese reverse auction feature actually looks and feels in practice. Again, just relaying what the source material said there.
Okay, wow. This has definitely been a deep dive into a really different way to run an auction. We've unpacked that core mechanic, start high, drop low, force those irreversible yes-no decisions. We looked at the key features that make it tick, walked through the whole process from prep to award, explored the big benefits for buyers like serious price discovery and cutting down collusion,
Right.
detailed the crucial steps for implementation, and really highlighted how essential software, like the Prokuria example, is to managing all that complexity.
Yeah, we've tried to pull out the core insights, give you a clear picture of this pretty powerful, transparent tool straight from the source material we had.
It really does fundamentally change the competitive dynamic, doesn't it? So here's something to think about. Given how this Japanese auction structure forces suppliers to reveal their absolute rock-bottom price through these quick, irreversible decisions without seeing competitors, what does this format tell us about the psychology of competition itself? Beyond just the dollars and cents, think about those unique pressures, the strategic calculations it forces on everyone, and how it pushes people towards revealing their fundamental value point.
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.